Well, the second project. This guy has a missing stud here, and it's got a missing nut on there. Now I tried to put that nut on there, but it's already stuck, so I don't know if it's a different thread size. I'm not really worried about it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these off with my air impact, take the wheel off, and then get that one of these new studs, get it installed, and then he just, as the owner, he just wants me to replace the ones that are bad or missing on the machine, because the other machine that we're going to get to here in a little bit, the left rear, all of them were loose, and as they try to tighten them on, they just snap. So let me get this wheel off. And all you have to do to get the stud on, just stick the stud in the hole, and then just tap it. And while it's off, we'll go ahead and clean the rest of these. They're all rusty. Put some sort of oil on it. I don't really care what you put on here. It doesn't matter. Anti-seize is probably the better alternative. Then put the wheel back on, and then put the nuts back on. And it's on there and done. Now if you have a problem, if you don't have enough space to hammer that stud on the back of it, you can use a couple of washers. I've used it in the past. I make a specific tool for it, but I've never actually bought the tool. You can do a couple things. You can use an air hammer, you can use a C-clamp, you can use some washers, just use the nut and your impact, and that'll draw it in. You can also just use the wheel on these steel wheels. Now, if aluminum wheel, you don't want to do that. You want to use some steel washers, but that one's good. I need to get the skid steer down. I need to get to that rear one and try to figure out how come that nut's not going on. So what I'm going to do is clean it up and then try to run a nut on. So the one on the back is messed up. I went ahead and drove it out. I left the wheel on it, this one, because I don't want to get my jack out and everything, and I'll show you guys how to just draw the other one up. It's really simple. It just takes a new stud. Then just put your nut on it, and you'll know if you have it right if the recession or your stick out from your bolt on our new stud is the same. It should be good. You can go ahead and tighten the rest of them down. So I got the stud nut replaced on the first one, the front one, and I went ahead and swapped the stud nut on this one and checked torque for all of them. And I'm glad I checked the torque on this one, because the torque on those nuts on there were pretty kind of loose. I got about a quarter turn, half turn out of them. The rest of them were pretty tight. I replaced this hose up here because of this tilt cylinder up in there. Didn't film it just because it was a real simple hose, but it did leak out some hydraulic fluid, so I got some hydraulic fluid. I need to go ahead and fill the hydraulic system, make sure it's topped off. And then while I'm at it, go ahead and check the oil and all the other fluids on this machine. And on the Cat machine, that's going to be your hydraulic tank. If you're confused, you can tell there's a little hydraulic symbol on it. That's the fuel. Don't get the two mixed up. I don't know how many jobs I've done where they gotten the two mixed up, and you will cause hell on not so much the engine side, because diesel is oil and hydraulic fluid's oil. It'll either thin the mix and it just smoke for a while, or it just won't start. But diesel fuel in your hydraulic system, you end up usually wrecking a pump or having some problems with the pump, depending on how much you got in there. So you can tell we are low. I'm gonna grab me a funnel and fill her up. So I got that one done. It's on the other side of the one with the jackhammer on the front, or the breaker rather. I checked all the fluid levels, the engine oil, coolant, topped off the hydraulic fluid, and greased everything. And I'm glad I did, because on the other machine, this grease fitting over here was just missing, and you can tell where the operators had just been shoving grease around it to make it look like they're greasing it, but they haven't been. I carry an assortment of grease fittings on my truck, so I pop one in, good to go. Now, since I have my grease gun already out, I'm going to go ahead and grease this machine, check all the fluid levels. I don't think I'm going to jack it up if I don't have, or I'm going to try not to. I think I'm just going to knock out about 2 or 3 of them at a time, install them, use my air hammer to push them out. I have my air over hydraulic jack, and it works pretty good, but all of my freaking jack stands and all of my cribbing are all on jobs. I've got 2 blocks under, let's see, 1 block is sitting in front of my Dodge as a wheel chock at my house. I've got another block sitting underneath the forklift out in Weatherford. And I've got 2 other blocks that are, I can't even remember what the hell they're under. I'm gonna do 2 or 3 at a time on this one. And as soon as I get the air hammer out, I'll show you guys. So I knocked out those 4. I'll show you how easy this is with an air hammer. I've got that nut on there just to center my air hammer. And there you go, it's off. now I put those studs in and draw them in with the new nuts. Well, I got that one done with the orange wheels. I replaced all of the studs and nuts on the back and a stud and a nut on the other side and one on the front. Went around, torqued all of them, greased the entire unit. Had to replace a couple of grease fittings because one was just completely missing, and it did the old operator schmooze job. I think it was on that one over there, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. So sometimes when the grease fitting's missing, the operator, instead of actually going and getting a grease fitting, putting it in it, they'll just squirt grease in there and kind of like smooth. That way it looks like it's grease, and I ain't got to deal with it because it's not their problem. I checked the oil, checked the transmission, or checked the I checked the oil, checked the hydraulic fluid, and all three of them are good to go. Looked over the engines, no leak. Didn't see any hydraulic cylinders leaking or anything. There was a couple of pins that didn't take grease, but I went over everything and told the owner, hey, this is all of the nuts on all wheels on both skid steers have been tightened. These are all the list of tiny issues that you can have me fix later, or you can fix later, and he was very appreciative. I know you guys have heard me say this before, but when you're working on the stuff, especially if you're gonna do this on your own, check these machines over. Check them over, and if you see little things, then fix it. If always check the oil, always check the air filters, blow the air filters out for them, and tell the owners you did that. Hey, I blew all the air filters out. I checked all the oil levels, I checked all the hydraulic fluid levels, because if you do, the owner's like, wow, when this guy comes out, like, he is really, I know my equipment's in good hands. He's going to check all the fluid levels, and he's going to grease it, and he's going to do all this stuff to it. They're going to call you again just because of that. Also, if you find something leaking, then they're going to, okay, well, shoot, when can you get to it? How much is that going to cost? You're finding more work for yourself. One of the videos I said that, I had a comment that said, oh, you're just out creating work. No, creating work means you're creating problems. Like you're purposefully making things leak, and that's a whole different video. Like, I don't even know anybody that does that, but you're just finding the problems that are on there, and you're letting the owner know. It's like, hey, I can fix that. You want me to fix it? This is how much it's going to cost. So, hope you guys liked the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your own comments and your own war stories about working on skid steers. I love to hear them. And get out and fix it.